We all spend so much of our lives chasing things, right? Success, validation, maybe just a little bit of peace. But what if? What if the secret to actually getting those things was to stop chasing them altogether? Well, today, we're going to dive into this really profound piece of wisdom that comes from a sacred mountain in China. It's just a short verse, but trust me, it completely flips the script on how we think about compassion, ambition, and what it really means to be abundant. So here it is. This is the verse in its original Chinese calligraphy. It's beautiful, isn't it? Now, don't worry, we're going to break down the full translation piece by piece. But the core idea here, it's a pretty radical guide for how to live with way less judgment and, in turn, a lot more natural abundance. And I know it might look ancient, but you'll see just how incredibly relevant this wisdom is for our lives right now. Okay, so a message like this, where does it even come from? This wasn't just something someone found tucked away in an old book. No, this is considered a living piece of wisdom. It was apparently received directly. And I think knowing its origin story really helps us feel the weight and the power behind these words. And what's really fascinating is how specific the details are. We're told it was received at Mount Jiuhua in China, which is a really important sacred site for Buddhists. And get this, we even have a date, November 3rd, 2010. So pretty recent, right? The source is said to be the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, basically an enlightened being who is all about helping others. And it was given to a practitioner from Taiwan. All that detail, it kind of grounds this spiritual wisdom in a real modern event, which I find pretty cool. All right, let's get into the verse itself. The very first part tackles our fundamental relationship with the world and with other people. It's basically asking us to make a huge shift in how we see things, to step away from the way our minds are just programmed to work. So check out the first two lines. Practice with compassion in a single good deed. Okay, simple enough, right? Just be kind, do a good thing. But then, bam, comes the real challenge. Forget the good and evil minds of all beings. Wow, it's asking us to stop our nonstop habit of labeling everyone and everything. He's good, she's bad, this idea is right, that one is wrong. It's asking us to just pause all of that. Now, it's really important to get what non-judgment means here. It's not about being a doormat or saying that harmful actions are okay. Not at all. It's about letting go of that compulsion to immediately slap a label on everything. It's about trying to see a situation for what it is, just for a second, before our own biases and filters kick in. It's about observing before we point fingers. And what happens when you do that? Well, the next line just nails it. It says, "In my life, I see only good. One good heart fills the world." It's so powerful. When you stop constantly scanning for what's wrong with people, you actually start to see the goodness that was there all along. The verse is telling us that what's inside of you literally colors the world you see outside. If you have that one good heart, your whole world starts to fill up with good. So let's just sit with that for a second. Seriously, think about your next interaction today. Maybe it's a meeting, a call, or just talking to someone at the store. What if you walked in with the starting assumption that this person is good, instead of being on guard? How would that one little shift change, everything? Okay, so the verse starts by changing how we see other people. Now it turns the lens back on us. It takes a hard look at our own ambitions and our obsession with what society tells us is valuable. And here's where we get to one of those classic spiritual paradoxes. The verse says, "Forget the world's fame and fortune, and they will naturally grace your life." Think about that. The very things we're all encouraged to chase, recognition, status, money, apparently they come to us more easily when we let go of them. Now, the point isn't that fame and fortune are inherently bad. It's the desperate chasing of them, that attachment. That's what messes everything up. So this really forces us to ask, what does wealth or success even mean? True wealth, according to this, isn't about what's in your bank account or how many likes you get. It's an internal thing. It's that deep sense of purpose and peace that has nothing to do with your job title. It's the kind of wealth that once you have it, nobody can ever take it away from you. And this leads to a question that just cuts right to the bone. If you didn't have to worry about what anyone else thought, if status and recognition were completely off the table, what would you do? What would you spend your time on? What problems would you be excited to solve? The answer to that question, that's where you'll find your most authentic self. All right, now we're getting to the absolute heart of the entire verse. This next part explains why letting go is so powerful. It's the engine behind the whole thing. It can feel totally backward at first, but this is the central teaching. Seeking nothing, you naturally receive abundance. I mean, that sounds nuts, right? How does that work? But the verse gives us the key. This is the law of cause and effect, unfolding. So it's not some kind of magic trick, it's just a different kind of logic. Think about it like this. When you help someone just for the sake of helping, with no strings attached, you create trust. You create goodwill. That goodwill, that trust, that's abundance. It's the natural result, the effect of your selfless action, which was the cause. This really breaks it down nicely. On one hand, you've got the world's way. That's all about pushing, striving, seeking, grasping for what you want. It's a grind. But then you have the Bodhisattva's way. It's the total opposite. It's about releasing your group, acting from a good place, and then just letting the results show up naturally. So here's the 3-step process for how this whole cause and effect thing actually works. Step 1, the cause. Act from a compassionate heart. Do the good deed. Step 2, and this is the absolute key, the pivot point, release your attachment to what happens next. You're not doing it in order to get something back. And step 3, the effect. Just allow the positive ripples from that action to unfold naturally. And you'll often find they come back to you in ways you never could have planned and that are way more fulfilling. So as we get to the end of the verse, it doesn't leave us with a strict command. Instead, it's more like a warm invitation. A challenge, really, to try this out for ourselves. And it comes with a beautiful promise for anyone who gives it a shot. The final lines are so powerful. It says, I hope all disciples will learn to practice this, forgetting the self, which means acting for the good of everyone, not just for you. And here's the promise. Heavenly guardians will surely lend their support. Now, whether you think of that as literal angels or just the universe kind of having your back when you act selflessly, the idea is the same. When you're working for something bigger than yourself, you're not in it alone. And that brings us to the end. This whole teaching, it isn't about some huge, dramatic, life-changing event. It's about right now, today. So the question for you is, what's one small bit of goodness you can put out into the world today, without looking for any kind of reward? Just one small act of compassion, one moment of dropping the judgment. Because according to this incredible wisdom from Mount Jiuhua, that right there, that's the starting point of everything. That's where true abundance really begins.